So, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to cover the topic of the Bundesliga in German. So this is the Wikipedia article about the first German soccer or football league. Depends on which way you want to call it, but you know what I mean. And yeah, let's just get into it. Die Fußball-Bundesliga, in Klammern zur Abgrenzung von der zweiten Bundesliga, bisweilen auch als erste Fußball-Bundesliga bezeichnet, ist die höchste Spielklasse im Männerfußball in Deutschland. In der Bundesliga werden im Ligasystem, bei dem jeder Verein in Hin- und Rückspielen gegen jeden anderen Verein antritt, der deutsche Fußballmeister. Die Teilnehmer der Europapokalwettbewerbe sowie die Absteiger ausgespielt. Die nach dem letzten Spieltag auf Tabellenplatz 1 stehende Mannschaft ist deutscher Fußballmeister. Die letzten beiden Mannschaften steigen in die zweite Bundesliga ab, die seit 1974 die zweithöchste Spielklasse unterhalb der Bundesliga bildet. Der 16. der Bundesliga bestreitet Relegationsspiele gegen den 3. der zweiten Bundesliga. Die Bundesliga wurde nach dem Beschluss des Deutschen Fußballbundes (DFB, or just DFB) am 28. Juli 1962 in Dortmund zur Saison 1963-1964 eingeführt. Zuvor wurde der deutsche Fußballmeister vom DFB in einer Endrunde mit Endspiel ermittelt. Am 22. August 2025 beginnt die 63. Spielzeit. Rekordmeister der Bundesliga und der deutschen Meisterschaft ist der FC Bayern München mit 33 (Bundesliga) beziehungsweise, that is just a shortening, but we're gonna get into that, 34 Titeln (Gesamt). So, let's just start with this part. Die Fußball-Bundesliga, zur Abgrenzung von der zweiten Bundesliga, bisweilen auch als erste Fußball-Bundesliga bezeichnet, ist die höchste Spielklasse im Männerfußball in Deutschland. So that just means the feminine, but yeah, football Bundesliga or soccer. Bundesliga just is deriving from the word Bund, which just means the what do you call this, kind of a bond, but the union of the states, kind of Bund. This is a more older term for what's it called, for a bond is kind of the wrong way to say it, but that is just saying that it unites all the, in this case, states of Germany, the 16 federal states, I guess. And this just says it includes all Germany, so yeah. The football, what's it called? I would say United League, you could say, but yeah, in general you know what the Bundesliga is, I guess. In Klammern zur Abgrenzung von der zweiten Bundesliga, bisweilen auch als erste Fußball-Bundesliga bezeichnet. In Klammern, as always, means in brackets. In Klammern, just to write that down. Sorry. In Klammern, in brackets. So yeah, zur Abgrenzung, for the abbreviation, you could say, so short for, that is what that would mean. Von der zweiten Bundesliga, of the second Bundesliga, which is the second highest, I guess, or yeah, the second highest league for football in Germany, so for the no, not shortcut. I said, what did I say? That was wrong, by the way. Abgrenzung, of course, means the derives from the word Grenze. Sorry, Grenze, border. So for the I said abbreviation or something, totally wrong. For the, what's it called? So that is not this Abgrenzung. Let me just, bordering, demarcation. So basically saying that it's not the same. Zur Abgrenzung, for the demarcation, I hope it's the right word. Yeah, for the demarcation, I don't know if it's pronounced the right way, but you know what I mean, of the second Bundesliga, so that it's, people know it's not the same as the second Bundesliga. Bisweilen, that just means up until now. Weilen derives from the word Weile, which just means a while, a moment, kind of. And bisweilen, so it's kind of an elder term, which just means up until this moment, or up until now, kind of. Auch als erste Fußball-Bundesliga bezeichnet, also as first football Bundesliga called or named. So for the Fußball-Bundesliga, the football Bundesliga, for the demarcation, for the kind of separation, you could say, just to differentiate it, of the second Bundesliga up until now, or at this point. In this case, it just means also called as the first football Bundesliga, ist die höchste Spielklasse im Männerfußball in Deutschland, is the highest playing class, which is kind of means league. Spiel is just game, but in this case it means, I don't know if it's the right word to say that. Let me just translate that. League, league in men's football in Germany. In Deutschland, in Germany of course. So die Football-Bundesliga, die Fußball-Bundesliga in Klammern zur Abgrenzung von der zweiten Bundesliga, bisweilen auch als erste Fußball-Bundesliga bezeichnet. Die Football-Bundesliga for the, just to know that it's not the same as the second Bundesliga up until now, also, or now, you could also say, also as named or called as the first football Bundesliga, is the highest playing class in men's football in Germany. In der Bundesliga werden im Ligasystem, bei dem jeder Verein in Hin- und Rückspielen gegen jeden anderen Verein antritt, der deutsche Fußballmeister, die Teilnehmer der Europapokalwettbewerbe sowie die Absteiger ausgespielt. I think we're just gonna stop here. In der Bundesliga, in the Bundesliga, werden im Ligasystem, werden, of course, always the passive, are being. In this case, in general, this means becomes or will be, but this is just saying that it's the passive form. In the league system, Ligasystem, league system, bei dem jeder Verein in Hin- und Rückspielen gegen jeden anderen Verein antritt, at which every club, bei dem jeder Verein in Hin- und Rückspielen, in home and away games. So this is just, or let me just translate that. Hinspiel. I think this is just, first and second leg, but it just means home and away games against the same opponent. Bei dem jeder Verein in Hin- und Rückspielen gegen jeden anderen Verein antritt, against every other club, what's it called? Antreten. Competes, yeah. Antreten, this just derives from the word treten, which can mean to kind of, what's it called? To beat someone with your leg. I don't know. Let me just, treten. Step, yeah. But like to kind of kick someone, yeah. That's the right way to say that. But with the prefix an, but in this case, this is more of a metaphoric, you know what I mean, way to say that you compete. So yeah, they compete against each other, like in home and away games, like one's home and one's at the opponent's stadium, I guess. And where were we? Yeah, here. der deutsche Fußballmeister, the German football league winner, what's it called? Fußballmeister. Yeah, champion you could say, because Meister could also translate like in terms of when you finish your like baker's degree, you are a Meister, which is a kind of master, a professional baker, for example, or when you make something like in general in terms of handcrafts, you're a Meister, a kind of master, like the kind of bachelor, I guess, of handcrafts. But in this case, this just means the champion. Yeah. So, the German football champion, I guess. Die Teilnehmer der Europapokalwettbewerbe. This looks like a very complicated word, but it's just a very, what's it called? Dense. I don't know. Like a lot of words in it which describe it, because die Teilnehmer, the, what's it called? Competitors. Is it that way? Teilnehmer. Which is basically also the plural form. By the way, participants of the Europe Championship, Europe Cup Competition, Europapokalwettbewerbe. European Cup competitions, yeah, this is kind of the way you would say that. I don't know which exactly that is in terms of like specifications, but I guess you know what I mean. Die Teilnehmer der Europapokalwettbewerbe sowie die Absteiger ausgespielt. As well as the descendants, what's it called? Is it that way? Absteiger. So the clubs that are going down because they had a bad season or like didn't play well enough to maintain their staying in the league. Absteiger. Yeah, I guess relegated teams or something. Are being played out. This is still referring to this. Werden ausgespielt. So that are being played out is very word by word, but this just means that they play to get results. Werden ausgespielt, which is, yeah, you play to get the points and then the results decide if you stay or not. Die nach dem letzten Spieltag auf Tabellenplatz 1 stehende Mannschaft ist deutscher Fußballmeister. The after the last, what's it called? Spieltag, playing day of the season, Spieltag. Match day, yeah, of course. The after the last match day on, I guess the table, like the spot on the table of the league. Tabellenplatz. Sorry. Table position. On the last match day on the table position 1, standing club is German. Or the German champion. So yeah, this just means that the club that is standing on the, or which owns the position of the first position of the table is the German League winner. Die letzten beiden Mannschaften steigen in die zweite Bundesliga ab. The last two, beiden just refers to the both, but this is the way you say that in German. In English you would say the last both teams. I mean, you would say the last two teams, but in German you would say the last both teams. So the last two teams steigen, Mannschaften, of course teams, steigen in die zweite Bundesliga ab. They, what's it called, relegate, absteigen, in general, like, means to descend somewhere, like, ich steige vom Pferd ab, I go off the horse, I go down, like, you know, go off of it. But in this case, this is referring to, I think relegate or descend. absteigen in die zweite Liga. Relegate, yeah. Division, you could also say, instead of league, but you know what I mean. Steigen in die zweite Bundesliga ab, so they relegate into the second league. Die seit 1974, 1974 of course, die seit 1974 die zweithöchste Spielklasse unterhalb der Bundesliga bildet. But since 1974, the second highest, zweithöchste Spielklasse, which is, what did I say? I said playing class, but this is the, what was I saying? League, I think. Spielklasse, earlier. Yeah, league it was. The second highest league beneath the, or under the Bundesliga builds, kind of. So that just means, in this case, builds or forms means, it just is the second highest league beneath the Bundesliga, or the first Bundesliga. Yeah, so I think we're just gonna start here. Die nach dem letzten Spieltag auf Tabellenplatz 1 stehende Mannschaft ist deutscher Fußballmeister. The after the last match day on the league place, table place, I guess, you know what I mean, or position, one standing team is the German champion. The last two teams relegate to the second league, which since 1974 is the second highest league division beneath or right after the Bundesliga. Der 16. der Bundesliga bestreitet Relegationsspiele gegen den 3. der 2. Bundesliga. Der 16. the 16th, in this case team, but you know, because of the context, what is meant with that, the 16th team of the genitive case Bundesliga bestreitet Relegationsspiele. Bestreitet derives from word streiten, which just means arguing. In this case, with the prefix but, just means that you compete, that you start fighting. Kind of like, no, you rather compete is the right word to say that, or to go into a competition. So the 16th team of the Bundesliga goes into competition, and this is in terms of relegation matches, I guess. That's what you would say. Relegationsspiele. Relegation games, yeah, I think. Hopefully you know what I mean if I say that they compete against each other, because I'm not like completely known, but they compete against each other to, I guess, either stay in the league, or if they lose, they in terms of the Bundesliga, they have to go down into the second league, and I think it's like decided by goals. Like if you win once and lose once, the more goals you scored, or the team with the more goals like wins, I guess. I think there have been kind of dramatic finishes in the past where one team had more goals, but yeah, I'm not a pro of that, but yeah, you know. So the 16th team of the Bundesliga, you could say, goes into relegation matches gegen den 3. der 2. Bundesliga against the 3rd of the 2nd Bundesliga. So yeah, the second plays against the 3rd gegen den 3. der 2. Bundesliga, yeah. Der 16. der Bundesliga bestreitet Relegationsspiele gegen den 3. der 2. Bundesliga. Ja. Die Bundesliga wurde nach dem Beschluss des Deutschen Fußballbundes DFB, in Klammern DFB, am 28. Juli 1962 in Dortmund zur Saison 1963-1964 eingeführt. Which just means the Bundesliga was being after the decision of the German football, what's it called? United Deutscher Fußballbund. Bund. Bund. You could say, sorry, no, that is not the right way. That was the lazy way to write that. German Football Association. Or this way. So the Bundesliga was being after the decision, Beschluss just means decision, des Deutschen Fußballbundes, DFB, which is the abbreviation for that, am 28. Juli 1962, on the 28th of July 1962, in Dortmund zur Saison 1963-1964 eingeführt. In Dortmund, which is a city, pretty, you could say prominent, pretty popular club. I think second most popular club in the country. Zur Saison, which is a city in North Rhine-Westphalia, by the way. Zur Saison 1963-1964 eingeführt. For the season 1963-1964 introduced. So the Bundesliga got after the decision, wurde nach dem Beschluss, got after the decision, of course as always passive, not always but you know, nach dem Beschluss, after or following the decision of the German Football Association am 28. Juli 1962 on the 28th of July 1962 in Dortmund for the season 1963-1964 it got introduced. Zuvor wurde der deutsche Fußballmeister vom DFB in einer Endrunde mit Endspiel ermittelt. Before that, but in German you could say zuvor, which just translates to before, but in English I guess you have to say before something, but you can say that in German, zuvor, so like before that. Wurde, again passive, was being, der deutsche Fußballmeister, the German football champion, vom DFB, by the DFB, I'm just gonna say, you know what I mean, German Football Association, in einer Endrunde mit Endspiel ermittelt. In a final round with a final game, ermittelt, that derives from the word Mitte, which is like, Mitte, either something like middle, or something you use to do something, a medium, resource, just something, you know. Emitted, but in this case, that was an excursion, but this just means emitted also derives from the term emitting in terms of detecting something, like when you have a police, something like, what's it called? Polizeiermittlung in German, which just means investigation, you could say. But in this case, it's not, of course, not investigating, it's just saying it got kind of, not figured out, but like it was being chosen kind of through this final round, or with this final round and this final game. So, die Bundesliga wurde nach dem Beschluss des Deutschen Fußballbundes DFB am 28. Juli 1962 in Dortmund zur Saison 1963-1964 eingeführt. So the Bundesliga got after the decision, following the decision on 28th of July 1962 in Dortmund for the season 1963-1964 it got introduced. Before that, zuvor wurde der deutsche Fußballmeister vom DFB in einer Endrunde mit Endspiel ermittelt. By the way, if I'm talking too fast, you can of course slow it down. Zuvor wurde der deutsche Fußballmeister vom DFB in einer Endrunde mit Endspiel ermittelt. Before that, the German football champion got, what's it called? Not figured out, but got like, chosen is the wrong way to say, but I'm gonna say figured out. Through a final round with a final game. Am 22. August 2025 beginnt die 63. Spielzeit. On the 22nd of August 2025 begins the 63rd season, in this case Spielzeit. I don't know if it's the right way to say that, because it also just means playing time, but because Zeit is just time, Spiel is game. But this just, I think, refers to the season. So that is the 63rd season. Because, like, you know, it started there. Or there. But yeah, you know what I mean. Rekordmeister der Bundesliga und der deutschen Meisterschaft ist der FC Bayern München mit 33 in Klammern Bundesliga bzw. 34 Titeln in Klammern Gesamt. That just means Rekordmeister, maybe you can guess, record, master is of course, as I explained, not the right way to translate that, but in some cases. So a record champion, in this case, of the Bundesliga und der deutschen Meisterschaft. Rekordmeister der Bundesliga und der deutschen Meisterschaft ist der FC Bayern München, is the FC Bayern München, which is, of course, I think, probably the most famous club from Germany. Of course, from Munich. Ist der FC Bayern München, is the FC Bayern München, mit 33, with 33, Klammern Bundesliga, in brackets Bundesliga, of course, beziehungsweise 34 Titeln in Klammern Gesamt. Here I think I'll have to kind of do an excursion, maybe. BZW, also here, is a very common abbreviation to say, this is the right way you're right, of course, to say Beziehungsweise. This is, of course, something you have to know. In this case, it means or, kind of. This is kind of correct, but in general, this is maybe the correct way to say that, but I personally, I think most people just, unofficially, but that's, I think, the general perception, just use it to explain something in more depth or in another way, like, ich meine das, beziehungsweise, I think it can be used both ways, like to explain something in a different way, in more depth, or mean something else. Like, I mean, what's an example? Ich spiele in der Bundesliga beziehungsweise beim FC Bayern München. I think that's kind of a decent example. I play in the Bundesliga, or rather to say, or so to speak, you could also say, or translate it this way, at the FC Bayern München. As I already said, it's kind of, or maybe it's the actually more correct translation, but it's also translating to, in my opinion at least, to kind of, or sometimes to describe something in more depth, more detail, but generally it's probably a more advanced way to say or, but yeah. The thing is, you can't always, in my opinion, but I think this is generally this way, you can't always replace or with beziehungsweise, and yeah, so it has a slightly different meaning, but yeah. In general, this is because of the word Beziehung, which just means relation, which is this part. Is very badly marked, but I think you get what I mean. Beziehung, of course, if it was a noun, in this case it's a kind of conjunction, but it would have to be written with an uppercase letter here, but yeah. Which just means relationship, you know, I'm related to someone. Ich habe eine Beziehung mit I have a relationship with Weise, which just means, in some way it means wise, to be wise. I'm a wise man, a wise woman, you know. But in this case, this derives from the word Weise with an uppercase V. In German, it's of course a V, not a W. Which just means the way to say something. Generally the way, but the kind of way, not the way in terms of I'm going, because you can't say ich gehe eine Weise. You could say that, but not in this way of saying I go this way, like the street, but yeah. So this just means relation-wise, if you were to translate that this way, but I think it's just not the right way to say that, and you don't necessarily understand in English probably why it's called this way, but yeah, that's just the way you say that to explain it. So, beziehungsweise 34 Titeln insgesamt. This is all, as I explained, kind of explaining it in more depth, in a different way. So it has 33 titles in the Bundesliga, or in general 34 titles in Klammern Gesamt, beziehungsweise 34 Titeln in Klammern Gesamt. Gesamt means as a whole. So in general, you could also say in general or generally. So generally, FC Bayern München has 34 titles. And I think that was it for today. Leave a like, leave a comment if you want. If you've got anything to say, as always, just say it in the comments, as I already said. And yeah, see you in the next video.